I just told you the other day, I said, Porsha, I wish we could be the way we are off camera, on camera. And you know what you said? They would have to pay me more money for that.
Shamia.
Why can't we be that way?
Why are you trying to argue with me for the show?
Why can't we be how we are off camera, on camera?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 16, Episode 11. And before we get into it, let me just say this. Porsha and Shamea, I need you all to realize that this friendship is over, and that's okay. Now, Shamea, while I'm on your side, I do have a bit of a bone to pick with you, but we'll talk about that later on. Miss Porsha, I will be whacking you for the entirety of this recap because you continue to try it. And for you to sit up here and play victim, it's really mind-boggling. But again, we'll get to that later. Now, I know that certain parts of this episode gave filler, but I will say, any episode where we only see about 5 seconds of Britt Edie, that's a win for me. She was barely featured in the episode, and I said, won't he do it, okay? But y'all, let's get right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. So we open up this episode with Angela and Charles out on a date night. Now, in my notes, I wrote that we'll be skipping this scene because it seems like anytime I voice my opinion on my channel about Angela and Charles and their whole dynamic, I'm always met with, I'ma just be honest, some hate over my opinions over how I don't like the way he speaks to her. I understand that some people aren't the warmest. I get that he might have a dry sense of humor, but I feel like there's a difference between somebody being dry and somebody being flat out rude. Just my opinion. But I will say, I thought it was telling how even when the producer was asking Charles if he loved his wife, and he couldn't even say yes. It was a whole bunch of grumbling and murmuring and mumbling. I just said, oh wow, look at the glowing and affectionate couple on my screen, and their marriage looks great and ideal to me. So now we jump on over to Shamia and Cynthia meeting up. And is it just me, or does it feel like Cynthia should just have a peach at this point? Because Cynthia really has an enhanced role as a friend of. I mean, she's damn near in every scene. She got more screen time in this episode than Kelly and Britt did. And they're both full-time. So Cynthia starts things off and she's asking Shamia how she's feeling. She goes on to say that last night was a lot. So Shamia says that she didn't sleep well last night. She felt a heaviness. And then she goes on to say that she texted her mom, asking her mom to pray for her because she felt sadness. So now Shamia says that she felt blindsided and how she would never give these women the opportunity to put her friendship with Porsha on the line. So now Shamia starts crying. Cynthia tries to console her. And now Shamia says that with us being decades into our friendship, you would think that she'd come to me in private and how it's disheartening. So Shamia says, well, basically, the conversations that I had with the ladies got back to Porsha in a weird way. Now, Shamia, I need you to take ownership because you know how it goes when you're venting about your friend to mutual friends. You should have went straight to Porsha the minute you felt away. Period. So Cynthia wants some clarity and she's like, well, were the conversations not brought back the way you said it? And Shamia says no, because I would never sit down with Angela about Porsha. And now Shamia goes on and says, well, what did happen was the ladies all came back to me and told me how they felt that Porsha wasn't a good friend to me. And I was the one who shut that down and said, it might look a certain way, but we are good friends. So now production plays the flashbacks of everybody in the group pretty much telling Shamia how Porsha is not a good friend to her. It's one-sided, and they don't feel like Porsha supports her the way she supports Porsha. So now Shamia says that she always downplays stuff, saying that it's cool, but it does hurt her. And Shamia, I have to whack you for that because for you to put your own feelings aside for years on end, I'm sorry, but that's also your fault as well. Because if we're being honest, you should have nipped this in the bud a long time ago. The fact that you let this pile up and now you're just now saying something a decade or more later, that's a problem. But anyhow, Cynthia brings up a similar situation that she was in with somebody who used to be in this group. So I already knew who it was when she said, despite how she would drag me, I still gave her love. So now we cut to Cynthia's confessional, and she says that she sees a lot of similarities with her friendship with Nene. Now, when Cynthia said Nene's name, I was shocked. I said, wait, Bravo is actually saying Nene's name on camera? So maybe there might be a stitch of hope that Nene will come back season 17. Now, there are the rumors going around that Nene is going to be on season 4 of Traitors. So we know that Traitors did wonders for Phaedra coming back into Bravo. Then maybe she might be back on Atlanta for season 17 or season 18. But I still believe that in order for Nene to get back on Housewives, she will have to kiss the ring, humble herself, and apologize to Andy Cohen. We all remember she called that man a racist, amongst other things that I won't repeat. And then on top of that, she famously said, Andy, keep my name out your mouth. And he did that. Just my 2 cents. But like I said, I was shocked that Cynthia said her name and Bravo did not bleep it out. So now Shamea says that's the thing that this group does not understand. They don't understand good friendships. And I said, so would you consider your friendship that's one-sided, by the way, you consider that a good friendship? Really, Shamea? I'm sorry, Shamea, but you sound goofy saying that. You have to suppress your feelings and your emotions and not say when they've offended you, but they're able to dog you out, lie on you with Phaedra. Let's not forget that. Not attend your wedding because of some bogus excuse, but that's a good friendship. Got it. So when I tell y'all, I was so gagged at this part because the tea that Shamea spilled, I said, wait, what? So we learned from Shamea that Porsha has told Shamea several times that Miss Diane doesn't know how to accept Shamea because of the parents' history, and Miss Diane has told Porsha to be careful around Shamea and you can't trust her. And remember, Porsha has told Shamea this to her face, that that's what Miss Diane has said about her. So Shamea's like, what a hurtful thing to say. Now, let me pause right here because Shamea, there is no way that I'm going to continue being friends with somebody whose parents don't like me. The minute you tell me, well, my mama told me that, I shouldn't be around you because of X, Y, and Z, she feels like she can't accept you or trust you, the friendship is over. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't even feel right being around your mom knowing that she hates me. No, thank you, I'll pass.
No.
And the audacity for Porsha's mother to speak ill of anybody else. Did you say anything to Porsha about how bad it looked when she got with Simon? Did you say anything when your daughter got on national TV on her spinoff show and tried to fight her baby's father's mother?
Don't talk. Yo, chill. Chill.
Go! You heard what I said.
The jokes truly write themselves because Porsha has really displayed such poor character, but yet you have so many issues with Shamea. Got it. So now we cut to Shamea's confessional, and she says that she was in elementary school or middle school when she was introduced to Auntie Diane. So she says that her mom and Miss Diane were 2 peas in a pod. Her mom considered Miss Diane to be her best friend, but it seems like the feelings weren't mutual. So now the producer wants to know, why did they fall out? And Shamea is being respectful, She's not trying to start any more drama. She says, I don't even want to go there. Let's move on. Now, we all know that Porsha crashed out for no reason on Instagram over the weekend. She made that really nasty post addressing Shamea ahead of the episode. But in case you missed it, I'm going to read it for you. I'm going to just say this. I'm watching the new episode as Shamea Morton. Now, don't take it there. Don't imply ish about Diane Williams. I've been keeping it cute/quiet, and you can do and say what you want. I guess she meant to say on me, but she said in me. But hear me when I say wrong road. Talking about, well, your mom thought my mom was a friend, knowing damn well what she did to my mom was highly egregious. Keep playing victim in that BS. Don't F with my mom. Now, one of y'all on Twitter had me screaming. You said Porsha did not write this because we all know that Porsha does not even know how to spell the word egregious. I said the shade of it all. But Porsha, you crashing out on Instagram, that was just such a bad look. And it makes you and your mom look guilty. Maybe I'm messy, but I low-key want Andy to bring out Shamea and Porsha's moms at this reunion and address what happened. Because I want to know. So Cynthia's trying to be optimistic and she says that I'm sure you guys will come to a place of resolve. And Shamea says, I do feel a bit lighter. So now Cynthia says that I know that friendships have internal conflicts, but you and Porsha have always seemed so happy when you guys are together. And Shamea says, I know, Porsha brings me so much joy. I said, really, Shamea? She brings you joy? How does she bring you so much joy when you're stifling your own feelings of hurt, pain, and disappointment with said friend? I understand that you're able to mask your feelings and downplay stuff so that way things don't ever get uncomfortable. But I call BS on Porsha brings me so much joy, but yet there's so much sadness and heaviness when you speak about your friendship. But Shamea says that they laugh and joke all the time. And Cynthia says, yeah, she's the yin to your yang. So now Cynthia says that she wants to have a Porsha and Shamea friendship. And Shamea makes a joke saying, well, I might be up for grabs. You never know. Again, I'm happy that Shamea's being honest about how she feels. But I just wish that she would have addressed all this before she even got on the show as a full-time housewife. Because now we're having tearful conversations with everybody in the group about a fallen friendship. So now we jump on over to Angela, Cynthia, and Porsha going bowling. I thought Angela looked amazing in this scene. I was just like, yes, honey, body is snatched. I said, oh, girl. I said, what waist? That corset, just everything about it. Chef's kiss. She looked good. So they're all having fun bowling, and Porsha says that she needed this. She needed to get out the house and do something silly. So now Cynthia's like, oh, by the way, how's your daughter PJ doing? So Porsha says that she thought at first it was only the divorce affecting PJ, but she realized that PJ is also affected by her always being gone because she's working. She goes on to add that PJ keeps asking, Mommy, where are you going? So Porsha goes on to say that PJ is very sensitive right now, and now she tells a story of how the other night, PJ was asking for Simon. She said, Mommy, where's Papa? And Porsha says that she told her daughter that she'll speak to him soon and that he's working. So Porsha says that PJ told her, well, he's been working way too long. So Porsha says that she had no idea what to do, so she texted Simon, and once again, Simon left her on red. And then Porsha says that Simon figures out a way to wreck her life every day. And I said, but Porsha, can you honestly say with a straight face that you expected more from Simon? You knew when you got with this man that he was a man of low character. You just thought that he would change for you, and he didn't. The same way he's done all of his other wives dirty. I don't know why you thought that he was going to treat you well. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You got with a con man, a grifter, a loser, a man with poor character, and you thought in your pea brain that it would all work out. And when you went on to say that we had a real family, I said, okay, Porsha. And I am so sick and tired of these women crying with no tears. How do you do that? Like, somebody teach me how to perfect crying with no tears coming out, because I'm a crier. And when I tell y'all, I will sob, lashes are off, makeup is all messed up. I mean, I'm done. Somebody teach me the art of crying hysterically, but yet no tears are produced. Let me know, because I would love to learn that hack. So you have Cynthia and Angela consoling Porsha. Cynthia's like, it's all right. It's okay to have a moment. You have a lot going on. And I said, well, so does everybody else. Porsha's not the only one going through something. Shamia's going through stuff. Angela's going through stuff. It's not just Porsha. And honestly speaking, Porsha's not giving full-time energy. There's no storyline. She's trying to drag out this beef with her and Drew that nobody cares about. She can't talk about the divorce. She can't film in the house. So, in my opinion, Porsha was better off sitting the season out and coming back when she can actually give us a storyline. So now Porsha brings up the whole drama between her and Shamea, and she says, that's why I said what I said the other day. When it comes to me and Shamea, I'm just not strong enough right now. I'm fragile. So Porsha says that she was aiming for her event to be a celebration of all of them and for all of them to move on and come together. And I said, really, Porsha? Because the way you've been dogging out Drew this season, and the way you said that you want to F Angela's husband, I don't know about us celebrating women and coming together as a group. Just saying. So Porsha goes on to ask, why is it coming back to me that I'm a bad friend and that I have you in the shadows? And now Angela jumps in and she's like, well, how does that make you feel? So Porsha says that she tries to be the best Porsha that she can be, and there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm gonna just leave that alone. But when she said that, I had to laugh. So now she goes on to say that going through a divorce, she's not able to be 100% of what her friends need. And she's always used to being the strong and funny friend, but right now, she just can't do it. And then she adds that she doesn't have the capacity to divorce her best friend right now, but she's hopeful that her and Shamea can get to the other side. It seems to me that there's always an excuse and a justification for Porsha's bad behavior. Everybody else is expected to be pleasant and act right, but for whatever reason, Porsha is allowed to get away with whatever because she's going through something. And Porsha, you're not the only one who has issues. Everybody on your cast is dealing with something. Shamea is dealing with trying to have another baby. You have Drew also dealing with a horrible divorce. Kelly's dealing with a terrible divorce as well. Angela has a bunch of family issues. She has these houses that she's yet to sell. So you're not the only one dealing with stuff. And for you to act like, well, I just can't deal with that, and I'm going through this right now. I can't take it. I'm so fragile. Well, I get that, but so is everybody else. And it's annoying to watch because you can tell that Porsha feels like her feelings take precedence over everybody else. Her feelings are the only feelings that matter. It's very Kyle Richards of her. If you watch Beverly Hills, Kyle is the only one who's ever dealt with anything traumatic. It's always about how she feels. She could care less about how you feel. The parallels are very similar between Kyle and Porsha, if you ask me. The way my heart goes out to Drew, because this scene when she left her lawyer's office and she was on FaceTime with her mom, I said, girl, Ralph is determined to just drain you dry, financially, emotionally, because how evil can one person be? We find out that Ralph and his lawyer are trying to get Drew's lawyer recused from the case. And then on top of that, Ralph is trying to claim ownership of her business, Drew Sidora LLC. I said, come again? What? Stop marrying down. Look at Mary J. Blige, Wendy Williams, Kelly Clarkson, Sherry Shepherd. Like, when will the girls listen? Stop marrying down, because you end up with the Ralphs of the world. That is such deadbeat, grifter, loser behavior. Because, sir, what do you mean you're trying to claim ownership of her businesses? So Drew breaks it down that at the last court trial, they were both ordered by the judge to turn over their financials. Ralph still hasn't done it, and now he's trying to get her lawyer recused because Drew's lawyer opened up a new business because Ralph was trying to take the old one. So now Ralph is trying to take both of her businesses. So Ralph wants 40% ownership of both of her businesses. I said, Drew, do you have a brother, a crazy uncle, somebody needs to pay a visit to that basement? Because there is no way, absolutely no way. So now Drew says that it caught her off guard because Ralph does very well. I said, does he? Are you sure about that? Because what does Ralph do again? I'll wait. He seemed awfully nervous at that dinner with Porsha and Shamea in last week's episode when it came time to pay that dinner bill. I don't know about he's doing so well. I believe that this man has been in your pockets for a long time and nobody can tell me differently. I know that one of y'all said that Ralph was making, I think, $300,000 as a tech guy. He was like the head of IT. Unless you can send me the receipts, I just refuse to believe that. I'm sorry, y'all, but Ralph is moving like a con man because no self-respecting man with some money and some drive and ambition would be asking you for $1. He's trying to drain you dry to pad his pockets. The fact that he's still in the basement and won't leave that house and get his own place is telling in itself. So Drew says, I don't know the ins and outs of Ralph's finances. We always had separate accounts. But the fact that he's trying to do this has me raising an eyebrow. I love how Drew's mom put him on blast. She was like, yeah, he hasn't even paid child support. He hasn't given one dime towards those kids. I said, okay, and there we have it. Because Ralph was trying to lie on Instagram a few months ago saying that he still takes care of the household bills and he takes care of the kids and Drew's lying on him. But Mama told it all. So now we find out that Ralph removed Drew's security access from their security system to get in the house. It was 1 a.m. She couldn't get in the house, so she had to go and stay at a hotel. So she says that Ralph was able to get into the house and then he walked upstairs and let her in. And I'm like, what? I feel really sorry for Drew. The fact that she's dealing with such an evil man. And the fact that he would have her locked out of their own house. I don't know about y'all, but I'm petty. I would have dialed up 911 and I would have gotten into that house immediately. Because what do you mean I can't access the house that I'm paying the mortgage on while you're down in the basement? Now, this scene with Angela and her mom coming over, I don't have a whole lot to say because I was confused. I feel like Angela leaves out a lot of details when it comes to the family drama. I felt like her and her mom were having 3 different conversations in the span of 3 minutes. And I'm even more confused than I was a few episodes ago. But Angela says that her and her mom were always close and she always dreamt of taking care of her. Now, we know that Angela bought her mom and her sister a house, and it seems like that house has been a bone of contention in the family. And we find out from Angela's mom that Angela's mom got herself a new house. And Angela is upset to hear that. But Angela's mom says that she wants to feel a bit more self-sufficient and not be so dependent on Angela. So Angela says that she feels like she bought the house for her mom and sister in vain because she spent, I think, $490,000 on the house, and the dream was to always take care of her mom. Angela bringing up the drama that went down between her daughter and her sister, and why her mom did not jump in and defend her daughter. I still feel confused about that situation. Honestly, it just seems like things went downhill when Amari got into it, and now I think that Angela's mom was like, you know what? Screw this, let me get my own place so that way I don't have to deal with you saying you bought me this house. That's what it seems like to me. And then you have Angela bringing up the drama that went down between Charles and her mom. Now, it's clear that the drama that Angela told us about between Charles and her family was a lot deeper than Angela let on. Because when her mom said, I love my son-in-law, maybe I should write him a letter apologizing, I said, oh, okay. So there's still a lot of bad blood between Charles and Angela's side of the family. As you guys can see, I don't have a whole lot of commentary for Angela and her mom other than I'm confused by the dynamics of the family, still confused about Amari's living situation, because if your mom is a millionaire and your stepdad is a millionaire, why do you need to borrow your grandma's car? And why are you living with your grandma and your aunt when you're married? Well, my condolences to Angela and her family, and I'm very sorry to hear about the passing of your mother. She seemed really sweet from what I got in this scene. The short scene with Kelly and her daughter Chloe driving, that was cute. But I will say, is it just me or does it feel like Kelly came in really hot in the beginning, but now I feel like towards the middle, she's kind of fizzling out. Hopefully, she gives us more towards the end of the season, but I forgot about Kelly in this episode too. So now we jump over to Drew at home. Her mom flew in to see her, make sure that she's okay, and they sit down to talk about the divorce once again. Now, I'm not going to hold you guys. This scene was more of the same. They're still discussing Ralph and his messed up ways. I couldn't stop laughing because if you notice, every time they talked about Ralph, they kept flashing to the basement, and I said the shade of it all. But I feel so bad for Drew because you have her mom saying that the kids are acting up, they don't listen to her, they're not the same due to what's going on. Drew starts sobbing. Now you have the mom emotional. The chef comes over to console the mom. I said, oh my gosh. I said, Lord, please expedite this divorce because I don't want to go another season of us still talking about the hell that Ralph is putting this woman through. I need them to wrap this divorce up like yesterday. And I'm just so baffled as to why the judge would even demand that Drew and Ralph not be able to tell their kids about the divorce in the first place. And then on top of that, the whole living arrangement is so stupid. Ralph should be out that house. He should not be in the basement. So the moment we've all been waiting for, Porsha and Shamea finally meet up to talk about their issues. So they're at the restaurant, they're sitting down, and you can cut the tension with a knife, okay? Like, it is awkward. At one point, Porsha's phone rings, it's her mom on FaceTime, and Porsha says, oh yeah, I'll call you back. Now, I was like, Porsha, your phone should have already been on Do Not Disturb. You know that you're meeting up with Shamea to really have a conversation about what's going on. It just felt like Porsha was trying to deflect with every second that went by. So they're trying to exchange pleasantries. How are you doing? How have you been? How's your week been? And again, it's just really awkward. And now Porsha says, let's talk because I feel like you have this reserved energy with me. So now we cut to Porsha's confessional and she says that this sit down with Shamea is unbelievable to her. And I said, why is it unbelievable? Because you're not used to your friend speaking up for herself and addressing you and confronting you when you're wrong? Is that what it is? And now we cut to Shamea's confessional, and she says that Porsha has been her best friend for decades. She's not trying to be at odds with Porsha. Porsha's not the ops. She just wants to be heard today. And I said, good luck with that, Shamea. That's wishful thinking. But anyhow, Shamea starts it off by apologizing for not being as open with Porsha for all these years. So she says that she's masked things and that she's always handled their friendship with care. So now Porsha interjects and says that they had discussed some of these things prior, and now Shamea cuts in and says, the difference between you and I is when you piss me off, I don't make a big deal about it right then and there. But when you talked over my music, these other petty things that you do, it feels very dismissive. So Shamea's still going, and at this point, Porsha interrupts by doing this dramatic sigh. And it's clear that Porsha is being passive-aggressive. And I have said this several times, but I think that Porsha is one of the most passive-aggressive people on this cast. Anytime she's confronted, anytime her feet are held to the fire, she's always making faces, trying to give you the silent treatment, trying to dismiss you. I can't stand it. I'm like, oh my gosh, Porsha, can you ever just be mature and hear somebody else out? Like, it's ridiculous. Shamea was so annoyed. She's like, am I boring you? Is that why you're sighing? And Porsha says, no, it's a deep breath because it's uncomfortable for me. So Shamea's like, oh, so it's uncomfortable when I express my feelings about how you made me feel? Really? And I'm like, Shamea, that's exactly why Porsha feels uncomfortable, because she's not used to you saying, hey, I didn't like that, let's address it. She's used to steamrolling all over you. You accept the poor treatment. She can toss you around like a rag doll, and you're supposed to sit there and smile. So God forbid you ever get the balls to speak up and say, you know what, I didn't like that. That made me feel a type of way. Please don't do that. Anytime you set a boundary with certain people, they can't take it. Now you're the bad guy. And that's how Porsha is. It's absolute insanity that somebody can feel uncomfortable because their best friend is expressing the hurt that they feel caused by you. So Porsha says that she's confused by this energy that she's getting and how she's also baffled as to why it's getting brought up again anyway. So Shamea says that the fact that Porsha took what the ladies said and ran with it, it's hurtful. And then she says that the ladies have all shaded Porsha and she's always shut them down. So here's where things take a turn. Shamea says, I want to resolve things and possibly salvage our friendship. So you have Porsha being sarcastic, and she's like, oh, really? Possibly salvage our friendship? Really? Possibly? Possibly? And I'm like, Porsha, you're not acting like a friend. Shamea did not say anything wrong, because there's always a chance that after a conversation like this, a friendship could end. It does happen. So Shamea points out how dismissive Porsha's being. And of course, Porsha's gaslighting Shamea. She's like, what's happening, Shamea? I just don't understand. Like, I don't want to argue with you. And I'm like, Porsha, Shamea's not trying to argue with you. You're trying to argue with her. You're the one with the bruised ego because you can't stand when somebody calls you out on your BS. Shamea is telling you as gently as possible, I love you. I love our friendship. But there have been times where you have hurt my feelings. And for you to take it as she's being argumentative, I'm like, oh my gosh. So now Shamea brings up what Miss Diane has said about her over the years. And she's like, do you know how that hurts me? So now you have Porsha defending her mom. And she's like, well, I didn't say it. My mom said it. So I just told you. And I said, Porsha, let's be so for real. Do you know how hurtful that is for you to tell somebody, your best friend, how much their mom doesn't like you and how they don't trust you? For you to sit up there and act like you can't understand why Shamea is hurt by what your mom is saying about her is mind-boggling. And like I said earlier, Shamea, I'm side-eyeing you because there is no way in hell that I'm friends with somebody and their parents don't like me and they're telling me how much their parents don't like me and I'm still sitting up there being friends with them. Absolutely not. Shout out to everybody. I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun. I gotta be good.
And then Shamea even pointed out how, due to Miss Diane saying that, Porsha has pulled back from their friendship at times. Again, this whole friendship has been a hot, raggedy mess for a long time. The way Shamea was putting it all out on the floor, I was here for it. She goes on to say that the other day they were on the phone and Shamea said to Porsha, I wish that you could act how you act off camera, on camera. And Porsha told her, well, they don't pay me enough. They'd have to pay me more for me to act natural. I said, girl, what? And you know how I know that Shamea is telling the truth? Because the way Porsha kept trying to talk over Shamea, she was like, Shamea, don't do this. You're doing this for the show? Really? Really, Shamea, for the show? And I said, Porsha, we can all see right through you. Gaslighting Shamea is not going to work. So Porsha's still being dismissive and passive aggressive, and Shamea says, let's be who we are off camera, on camera.
Let's be how we are off camera, on camera.
But you're not allowing
You
that
can't
to
put a dollar
happen.
amount on that. I want you to do that because you love me and you enjoy being around me, not because you want to get paid to do it.
Now,
this is scary that the show has caused you to not be honest about your feelings.
And Porsha is still playing in this lady's face. She's like, Shamea, it is so scary how the show is causing you to argue with me. And I said, really, Porsha? We're really doing this? I really blame everybody in Porsha's life for enabling her to be an immature gaslighter. And the fact that Porsha sees nothing wrong with her behavior is really sad. The fact that she wants to now spin this like Shamea is the one at fault and is doing this for a moment is disgusting. So Shamea says, it's no secret. Everybody knows I'm the newest peach holder. This is uncharted territory for the both of us because in the past, it's always been Porsha's show. She's always been front and center. So at this point, they're getting nowhere. Porsha's still being passive aggressive, picking at her food at this point. And now Shamea says, it's really unfortunate that you've minimized my feelings to being about the show when you know that that's not the case at all. And I said, Shamea, she knows that. So here we go with the fake tears. Porsha says, Shamea, stop. It's a lot for me, okay? Just stop. So we see Porsha get up and walk to the bathroom. I said, you have got to be kidding. The fact that Porsha is going to run off like she's the victim. But why am I surprised? Because this is the same woman who couldn't even own up to how she almost fought her baby's father's mother on national TV. She told her family and production, don't ask me about it. I'm not talking about it. There is no accountability whatsoever. I think that accountability feels like death to Porsha. So that's why she's struggling so hard in this conversation. Again, Shamea is better than me because I would have called for the check, paid it, and left. So now Porsha comes out the bathroom, sits back down, they box their food up, and now Shamea says, well, you know, I'm sorry that there was no resolve between us, but I'm gonna pray for us. So Porsha's like, well, no, you had stopped talking, so I didn't know. I thought that you wanted to leave. And I just said, Porsha, girl, shut up. So Shamea's like, well, girl, you told me to stop talking and then you ran off crying to the bathroom. So that's why I thought, you know, let me box the food up and let's go. I can't read your mind. What did I do that was so wrong? So here goes Porsha with the sob story. I said, let me get my tiny violin out to play it. But Porsha says that I'm a bit overwhelmed right now. I'm doing the best that I can. I was happy that Shamea clocked it. She was like, girl, join the club. Like, Effie, we all got pain, honey. It's not just you. So Shamea says, look, I just want you to find the capacity to care about things that hurt me. That's all I want. If I'm pouring my heart out to you, please don't tell me to stop. It feels dismissive. So Porsha says, got it, will do. And now she starts pleading with Shamea to save their friendship. She says, Shamea, I don't want to break up with you. I want to get past this. I don't like this for us. And now she apologizes. So we see Shamea apologize too. They're holding hands. Porsha says, I love you. Shamea says, I love you too. And Porsha says, look, if you ever want to talk about anything, let's just talk, but I don't want us to be here again. So they get up and give each other a big hug. Shamea says that she feels truly heard today. She feels good. And now we cut to Porsha's confessional, and she says that she's never begged so hard or argued or been ambushed in her life. I said, hold on. Ambushed? Shamea sitting you down and meeting up for lunch to talk about the state of your friendship, that's an ambush? I'm aware that you're not that bright, but you know what you're doing when you use words like that. That was not an ambush. I just can't stand the way Porsha always victimizes herself anytime somebody calls her out. That was by no means an ambush. It's anything to act like Shamea is the villain here. When you have people like Porsha who can never apologize or own up to anything. Anytime they're confronted, even when it's done in love, it's going to be seen as an attack because they're not used to being called out. But that's where the episode ends, and all I have to say is it's clear that this conversation did nothing because present day, you guys are still beefing. Shamea was on the Breakfast Club a few days ago talking about the demise of their friendship. Porsha's crashing out on Instagram. Shamea was crying on the after show. This talk did nothing. Now, I've seen a few theories that a few of y'all believe that Porsha and Shamea have cooked this up for a storyline for the both of them. I see why you could think that, but the fact that they're no longer friends currently, I have to disagree. I think that it's real life beef. There's real unresolved issues between them. Like I said in my last recap, I believe that them being equal, both full-time cast members on the show, I think that is one of the biggest reasons why their friendship is down the drain. Because I think that Porsha always liked the fact that she was on the show. She was one of the stars of the show. And Shamea was always in the background. A lot of times, friendships are only friendships when one party feels like they are better than the other friend. When that friend levels up, catches up, and they're on the same level, or that friend surpasses that other friend who was always above, that's when the trouble starts. We can do a separate video on that alone. I did a video about that, how you lose friends when you start leveling up in life. That's why that saying about it's lonely at the top, it's true, because it is lonely at the top. People drop like flies when you start succeeding. That's how you know that you've made it, when you have less friends. When you're not a threat, when the money's not flowing, when you don't look as good, you have all the friends in the world. When you start shining, when you start really progressing in life, the money's rolling in, you glow up physically, you're in the gym, snatched, the face card is giving Black American Express card. That's when the hate comes. That's when all your friends disappear. But I say all that to say, I'm curious to see what happens at this reunion. And I hope we get more backstory on what happened between Miss Diane and Shamea's mother. Because something tells me that it's Miss Diane's fault for why they don't speak. And I'm going to just leave it there. Now, it looks like in next week's episode, we get the return of Phaedra Parks. So that whole dynamic's going to be interesting now with Porsha, Shamea, and Phaedra. Because we all know that Shamea can't stand Phaedra, and rightfully so. So we're going to see how that works now with freaking Frack back. But guys, that's all I have to say about that. I hope you guys enjoyed my recap. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to everybody listening on the podcast. And you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.